Knowledge preservation, from ancient to modern. Knowledge is eternal. From the dawn of creation, man has been endowed to seek knowledge, firstly to survive, then to dominate and control his environment, later to acquire wealth and comfort, and in comfort, to inquire into the existence of life itself. The unique and most outstanding feature that distinguished mankind from the other animals in creation is that consciousness or awareness to get information, initially from his environment, then building it into a body of knowledge and developing it into a system or technique to acquire certain skills, and most importantly, preserving that knowledge and passing it to the coming generations.
The National Library play a very important role in preservation of indigenous knowledge. Like, we collect this knowledge like family history. We go into family, depth into family, to collect this history, then document them for future posterity, so that if the people that knows about this history die, the knowledge will not die with them. We collect this knowledge, we document it, then we digitize it. We normally do it because of future generations that are coming.
From the early humans, who were wanderers and collectors of fruits, cave dwellers and tree dwellers, to Stone Age and making of flints and stone implements, to the Iron Age and making of cutlasses, hoes, swords, etc., to the building of the pyramids of Egypt and the ancient walls of China, and up to this modern age of skyscrapers, supersonic jets, drones, rockets, missiles, and spaceships. One chain of events is very glaring: the acquisition of knowledge, preservation of knowledge, and transmission of knowledge to the next generation has helped mankind to develop and become master of creation, as we witness today.
Students, researchers, and professionals depend, on quality materials to learn, conduct research, and generate new knowledge. A well-developed collection enhances academic performance, encourages critical thinking, and promotes lifelong learning. So, material acquisition promotes information equity, by acquiring most of these objects. We call it objects, the artifacts. It kind of promotes learning. Apart from learning, we share it to generations yet unborn.
The pertinent question to ask, therefore, is how do we preserve knowledge from ancient times to modern times?
For it to be preserved, we do what we call we do what we call curative preservation. You preventive and curative conservation on most of these our artifacts, so that generations yet unborn will be able to see it. And for us to do that, there are so many things that we also put into consideration, so that these objects, they will not be tampered with, so that they will be conserved and they will have a lifelong span.
The method of impartation of knowledge and acquisition of knowledge then was just purely oral. And that is why we have development of knowledge at the oral stage, at the printing stage, at alphabet stage, and at electronic stage. This oral stage will be the one I will concentrate much on, because that was the time when oral culture became the in thing. When acquisition of knowledge, storage of knowledge, and dispersing of knowledge was restricted to only the mouth-to-mouth communication. And that was why that particular period was being referred to as the oral stage.
Anthropologists, archaeologists, and historians agree that long before the art of writing, oral tradition was the first form of preserving knowledge. From Africans, Asians, Europeans, Chinese, Indians, even the Red Indians of now America, all have old people who were the ancient preservers of knowledge stored in their mental archives, and often through their storytelling, tales and legends transmit knowledge to the next generation, covering virtually all aspects of life. A vivid illustration is the traditions of the Yoruba people of Western Nigeria in Africa.
In that oral tradition, who were the teachers in the society where there were no books, where there were no writing materials, where no one was able to read, when reading also was not part of the culture of people? That was the time that we refer to as the time of the oral culture. Who were the teachers at this time? The teachers at this time were the old people in the society. Because the corporate tradition, the culture, and the knowledge was stored within the human memory. So, in order to make memorization very easy, and to make recall very easy too, this accumulated knowledge was, let me use the word packaged, was made to be in form of legends. I will talk about it later, legends. In form of myth, in form of songs, in form of poems. And the teacher of that time were the storytellers within the society. They are the traditional singers. These people were the bards, B-A-R-D-S, bards. Some of them, they were referred to as griots. I will just try to emphasize that this period of the oral culture, I will try and refrain myself to the culture of the Yorubas that I'm very familiar with, that I know. They have method of teaching their children different subjects. And like I said, that these teachers were the old people in the society. And what we can refer to as their archives then, as their library, was their brains. Information was kept in their brain. And that is from where they were really recalling information that they were teaching their children at that period. Something is very interesting here. Can I tell you that there was no subject that they did not cover during this period of oral culture? And it was very easy for them because in Africa here, our life was purely oral. We tend to transmit knowledge from the words of mouth to the ear, from the words of mouth to the ear. But when they would teach their students or their children of them, do you know that at this time of the oral culture, they were teaching mathematics, or what people can refer to as arithmetic? That is when they will start something like eni bí eni, ìyẹn lọmọdé kawó, èjì bí èjì, ìyẹn làgbà tayò, ẹ̀ta bí ẹ̀ta, ẹ jẹ́ ká tara wa lọ́rẹ, ẹ̀rin bí ẹ̀rin, ẹ̀rin tó wuni láàárín, àrùn bí àrùn, ọba má ṣe wá lárùngún, ẹ̀fà bí ẹ̀fà, ẹ jẹ́ ká fara wa mọ́ra, èje bí èje, olúgbọ́n ṣòro kìje, ẹ̀jọ bí ẹ̀jọ, ẹni bí ni làájọ, ẹ̀sán bí ẹ̀sán, ọba já yóò san wá, ẹ̀wá bí ẹ̀wá, ọba má wàhálà wá, ọba má wàhálà. When somebody is saying like, it looks so entertaining. But what they were trying to teach the younger ones at that period was something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ení bí ení, èjì bí èjì, ẹ̀ta ǹtagbá, ẹ̀rin wọ̀rọ̀kọ̀, àrùn gbódó, ẹ̀fà tí èlé, bírò ń bírò, èrò ń bàtà, ògbálákẹ̀sán, gbangbálẹ̀wá. That is teaching them simple unit of 1 to 10. If they want to teach about the morality, the moral of the society, you know, as at that time now, them, they were teaching religion, they were teaching morals, they were teaching good behavior in the society. All this, they may package it to be in form of poem. Things like kàkàkí bí ẹgbàá ọ̀bùn, máa kúkú bí ọ̀kan ṣoṣo ọ̀gá, máa ro ìyẹn aráyé lójú, máa ro ń gbéraga, ṣé ọ̀kan ṣoṣo àràbà, kì í ṣe ẹgbẹẹgbàá ọ̀súnsún, ọmọ tó jáfáfá kan ṣoṣo, kì í ṣe ẹgbẹẹgbàá ọrún bí ọmọ, àkúkú ìbí ṣànṣẹ́ rádaràdà, ká kú lọ́mọdé kó yẹni, ó sàn ju ká dàgbà ká tọrọ jẹ lọ. That is teaching the virtue of the morality within the society. That it is not how many, but how qualitative. When they want to teach about good behavior too, not to cheat others for the sake of your own, they will now refer to be talking things about ìjàpá tí rókò ẹkùn ọkọ yán níbo. It was ìjàpá that was in a village where they said, okay, let us all put our resources together, carry your machetes, carry your cutlass, carry your hoe, carry your digger. Let us go and dig a well where every one of us will be drinking water. But ìjàpá, being very trickish, a man of trick, we don't want to participate. And by the time the result is ready, he wants to benefit. There was a particular, they call it a kind of story. In Yoruba, they call it alo. That they used them to depict ìjàpá, who was not ready to plant. He was not ready to work, but he was ready to hit. When the other people in the village went to the river, to the riverside, in order to dig the water, and the water was coming up, they discovered that when the water started coming up, they now arranged themselves that we'll be fetching this water from 10 to around 4 a.m. in the night. But the tortoise that did not have anything to contribute when they were doing it also wanted to be part of the beneficiaries of the water of the river. He did not really put anything in. And when those people left the place, they made somebody to be watching over the place. But tortoise, being very smart with many tricks that he had, you know what he did? He now had mortars, something that can be sanding in a way that it will create fear. He tied all those things around himself, and he was going to the riverside with mortars on the left, mortars on the right, that will be sanding and be banging on the ground. When tortoise was going in order to steal part of the water by the riverside, he will go there with all these things tied to himself and a gourd, empty gourd, G-O-U-R-D, to fetch water. And when he's going, I must say, Karagba kiri bibi gandi, Karagba kiri dido kanga, Bimo berin lodo mate kandi, Bimo befan lodo mate kandi, Karagba kiri dido kandi. And as he was moving around towards the river, all this sand will be shaking the ground to the extent that the person that was put to be watching over the water so that people will not steal it, the person got frightened and he ran away, and thought he was able to get there to fetch water, and he ran home. He kept on doing this for a few days until when they now discovered that, what can we do? They now went to the oracle. What can we do? The oracle now devised something for them. Go and make an effigy. I will speak later about this effigy because it's one of the means by which the Yorubas traditionally document their information too. So they now made this effigy. They look for carvers that carved a very big effigy that is in the shape of a man. And they now put that effigy there with a club in his hand. They now put gum, Yoruba will call it ate. They now put gum around his body so that whatever that touches it will get stick to it. In the night, tortoise, being the usual stealer, the thief of water, did not know that they have put something that can really catch him there. He was even believing that it was one of the animals that will be there, that will be watching over, that will run away. So he moved that particular night again. He was saying, Baragba gidijiji kandi, karagba kurudubi kandi, bimobere lodo mate. That means if I meet an elephant by the riverside, I will pass on it. Bimobe for lodo mate, bimobe kulodo mapa, and he was going. And everything he tied around his son was shaking the ground and was making terrible noise that can frighten somebody. But because what they put there was an effigy, ere, tí ó lè lọ síbi kankan. So as he was going, the thing did not move. Karabaki dididi kandu, karabaki dididi kandu. Bi mo berin lodo mate kandu, bi mo befon lodo mate kandu. He was moving around. It was until it got to that that carved image that was painted around with sticky gum. And when that thing refused to move, he felt that, who are you to challenge me and challenge my authority? He kicked the body of the effigy, the hands got stuck, the second hand got stuck, the leg got stuck, the second leg got stuck, and the head got stuck. Both the tortoise and the effigy, they fell down. In the morning, when the people, other animals in the village wanted to come and fetch water, they now saw the effigy lying on the ground with tortoise, getting stuck to the body of it. And that was how they began to beat the tortoise here and there. And from what the story told us, it was the beating of that day that deregularized the smooth body of the shell of the tortoise. What they were teaching there is that you should not always try to be oversmart. Don't always want to play on the intelligence of others, because before you are able to reap, you should be prepared to plant and work for it. And that is part of how they teach their students, their children, so that they would, the morality of the society is that you should venture before you gain. There are so many stories like that. Now, when they are talking about oral culture, they were teaching history then, different from the history that we teach in the Western education period now, when they will be talking about all these people that have done this, or people that have contributed this. They were teaching history. They were teaching the origin of people. And this, they put everything together in the praise names. They call it panegyrism, where they will put the praise name of people together, and part of these musicians, the songsters, and the poets in the society, they were the ones that really brought all this together to let you know where you come from. Like, we have people that are born from different families. We have Ikoyi Esho. By the time they are making the praise name of Ikoyi Esho, you will know that you are from the family of the warriors.
Next, we have the use of symbols littered in several caves across the world, from Asia to Europe to Africa. We have a lot of cave drawings telling the stories of people who have gone before and their techniques of surviving in their environment. Next stage is the development of the art of writing in form of cutting on stones called cuneiform around 3200 BCE before Christ in Mesopotamia, which equates to modern Iran. About the same 3200 BCE, pictorial writing called hieroglyphics developed in Egypt in Africa. Later, Egypt started writing on scrolls called papyrus, which marks the earliest form of books. The several cave paintings in Asia and Africa were part of the early methods of preserving knowledge. The underground chambers in the pyramids of Egypt are full of many stories about the people, their history, wars, their kings and ruling styles, techniques of mummification, and several other esoteric knowledge. These early scribes of Mesopotamia and Egypt were the veritable forerunners of the modern librarian, who holds the keys to the vault of preserved knowledge. As a matter of fact, printing started in China using woodblock around 7th to 8th century. It later developed further around 1040 AD to movable typefaces using wood and iron by one Big Sheng Song, before printing with movable typefaces spread to the whole world. With this development, knowledge became storable and preservable in thousands of books, printed volumes. Today, in this age of information, knowledge is preserved not only in books and paper, it is preserved in electronic gadgets, computers, clouds, flash drives, etc., etc.
I will need to speak about the stages of development of knowledge that eventually evolved in the establishment of libraries. You know that in the history of human existence, it is not immediately life was, or the world was created by God that people started reading and writing. You know, there was a time in the history of human existence when there was nothing to read and nothing to write. Even there was nothing to write with. That was a time when nobody was knowledgeable enough to write anything. So, the method of impartation of knowledge and acquisition of knowledge then was just purely oral.
Now, let's come back to Africa and Nigeria. It's a fallacy to think we did not preserve knowledge before the coming of the white man.
Yorùbá ní ká tó dọ́mí láti mí, kógun tó dáyé ńlògún ṣèrè tí ń jórúkọ. Wọ́n ní ká díẹ̀ tó kágbàdo tó dáyé nǹkan kan ládìẹ tí ń jẹ. Before the coming of the Europeans and before the coming of the knowledge by the Arabians, each sections of the world, they have been training their children, they have been developing their children, they have been giving them education, they have been teaching them religion, they have been teaching them morals to live a very successful and peaceful life and to make their world to become a place where somebody will stay and enjoy. It is not until when the books came that knowledge started. It is not until when the white men came that knowledge started. Even before they came, we've been fighting our wars. Before they came, we have been killing animals. Not until when they brought all these sophisticated guns. Before they came, we've been building our houses. Because there was a place, or there were places where our forefathers and foremothers were living. Ilé ahéré, ilé alámọ̀, ilé tí wọ́n fi èrìkò kọ́. All these were method of existence. Before the white men came, we had our own technology. We had our own social interaction. Do you know that even before the telephone comes, before it came, there were ways by which people communicate with people in far distance. One of them is even in that drum that we talk about. Remember something now in Shaworoide. The man that we take that drum must have a feather attached to the drum, and they will drum that. They will give that communication in a way that the information will travel far to wherever the person is. One lè Sunday, sure, wow, and they'll be doing that with what? With drum, and the drum is communicating. So during the oral tradition, a lot of things were happening. It's a pity that the English men, the white men came. They did not allow we, the Africans, to develop in our own natural way. They came to introduce confusion into our existence. And that is why we are lagging behind now. If the way we have started growing is the way we were growing, we will have been made a very successful society that will be devoid of all these unnecessary distractions, wars, banditry, and so on and so forth, because we had our own oral culture. And come what may, let me say this here, come what may, the oral tradition is still in existence, side by side with the Western tradition that we are imbibing. When we do weddings here now, either in Yoruba or Islamic way, we will take side or part of the European method of wedding. But when we get to the point where we have to toroma, where we have to beg for the wife, husband will prostrate and say, "Mo bebefe." Is that part of the European life? That is to say, our oral culture still exists pari passu with the Western world culture that we have imbibed. Even the way we dress, most of the dressing that we use now, that was the type of dress that we were using before the advent of the white man. Ani aṣọ dandogo, aṣọ alari wà, ani sanyan, aṣọ ìrìkó náà wà tí wọ́n ṣe ń gbà yẹn o, oríṣiríṣi, and we are still making use of them now. Like me now, see what I'm wearing. It looks like the way my fashion designer designed this, it looks like more like an English cloth. But I use adire eleko, Kampala. Adire eleko is what I use to even sew this, and I'm wearing it. That is part of the oral culture. We have a way of dressing, we have a way of teaching, we have a way of worshiping, we have a way of interacting, we have a way of socializing. How can you imagine people that dance to the sound of the music of Gaga? Ani ijo bandikan wa, ijo woro wa, ijo etiquette wa. And all those ones are what our drummers are imbibing into the music of nowadays. Ijo etiquette, ijo woro, ijo bandikan, ijo tojo tara yo da shasha gangan. That is part of the oral culture. So we in Africa, we had our own ways of existing, way of familiarizing, way of bringing up our children, way of treating our children moral values, way of our religion by which we worship God.
And in what ways do we preserve knowledge in modern day Nigeria?
The acquisition material also preserve cultural heritage and collective memory by collecting local publication, historical documents, and indigenous knowledge. Societies safeguard their identity and ensure that future generations can learn from past experiences. What I'm just trying to say here is that the materials that you see here that we put on display, they are materials that has to do with the past and the future, because this is where a whole lot of people come to learn about their past, and a people without their past is a lost generation, is a people without an identity, because they don't have an identity. When you know about your past, you'll be able to navigate your future.
And what are the benefits?
The acquisition of materials is very important in the formation development of a society, because materials are the foundation through which knowledge is created, preserved, and shared. Without this information, you cannot preserve or share most of what is on display in the National Museum of Unity. So without adequate acquisition of relevant materials such as books, because all those artifacts that you are seeing on exhibition, apart from you citing them on display, they will also have books to back up our display, because books that talk more about them, they are, we have them. And that's why most of the museums, you will see that we have libraries where information you can also be sourced from. So adequate acquisition of relevant materials such as books, such as digital resources, journals, archival materials, or what sometimes we call it archival records, and multimedia content. All this tends towards giving more information, about the research. They kind of support the research, they support the education, and the innovation or informed decision making on most of what you see on display. So material acquisition kind of ensures access to adequate material, so that when we visit places like libraries, the information centers, we can have what we call an up-to-date information on most of these objects.
What are the roles of the modern librarian and the library in the preservation of knowledge?
The National Library play a very important role in preservation of indigenous knowledge. We go out to collect some of this knowledge. All these books that you are seeing here, we collect it from publisher, then we document it. Not documentation alone, we also digitize it for future posterity. Then we put it in our archives. When we get to our library, there are books of 100 years ago in our library. The publishers of these books, they are no more, but their work are still alive. We normally do it because of future generations that are coming. Why National Library is doing this is to prevent cultural loss, so that our culture will not be lost forever. Oral traditions are fragile, but National Library ensures knowledge is not lost when knowledge holders die. If they were not documented or digitized, there is possibility that this knowledge is lost forever. Then we also do it to foster identity, to preserve indigenous knowledge, strengthen community pride. Our children will be able to do that. We have a rich culture. It's not only Western culture that is rich.
Whenever or when next anyone should challenge you on whether we have indigenous knowledge in Nigeria of preservation of knowledge, tell them some of these stories by a great researcher and librarian,